Tools are a very common part of everyday life. We use hand and power tools at home and on the job for a variety of reasons. Tools are very useful if used properly. If not, they can be very dangerous. If you have ever had a wrench slip from a bolt and scraped your knuckles, or hammered your finger instead of the nail, you know the pain that can occur from a simple mishap. Unfortunately, more serious injuries can and do occur with the use of such tools. The purpose of this video is to provide information about basic safety rules, procedures, and safeguards associated with hand and power tools. By being aware of the possible dangers and hazards of working with hand and power tools and knowing how to protect yourself, you can more easily avoid or eliminate tool-related accidents. This video will cover the following hand and power tool topics: hazards, general safety precautions, personal protective equipment, guarding, controls and switches, types of hand and power tools, training and emergency procedures. Employees that use hand and power tools are faced with many possible hazards. Serious accidents with hand and power tools can occur before steps are taken to identify and avoid or eliminate tool-related hazards. Hand and power tools can lead to a variety of injuries. Among them are scrapes, bruises, breaks, punctures and cuts, hearing problems, being struck by falling, flying, abrasive and/or splashing objects, breathing in or coming into contact with harmful dusts, fumes, mists, vapors, and/or gases, which can result in respiratory problems, electrical shock and burns, falls, or possible death. The safety of everyone on the job site is the driving factor behind all safety training, rules, procedures, and regulations. Employers and employees should work together to establish safe working procedures and a safe working environment. Any unsafe working condition or tool should immediately be reported to your supervisor. Unsafe working conditions must be corrected before work continues. Never use a damaged or malfunctioning tool. Damaged tools should be taken out of use until properly repaired or destroyed and discarded. There are basic safety rules that should be followed to help prevent hazards associated with the use of hand and power tools. First, keep tools in good working condition through regular maintenance. Second, always use the right tool for the job. Third, inspect tools for damage before use. Remove damaged or non-functioning tools from service. Tag or lock out any tool that is not working until it is repaired. Fourth, never attempt to repair damaged tools yourself. Only the manufacturer or an approved repair shop should be used for repairs. Fifth, use tools according to the manufacturer's guidelines. Always read the instruction guide before first use. Sixth, use appropriate personal protective equipment at all times. And finally, keep floors and work areas clean and dry to prevent slips, trips, and falls, and other accidents. Always keep your own work area clean and organized. Personal protective equipment, PPE, is vital to the safety of employees that work with hand and power tools. The type of PPE needed is determined by the tool used and the work being performed. It may be gloves, earmuffs, face shields, metatarsal guards, welding hoods, or other specialty PPE. Your employer will provide all necessary PPE at no cost to you. You have a responsibility to use the PPE and understand how to properly use it when required. Remember, PPE is considered the last line of protection. Belts, gears, shafts, pulleys, drums, flywheels, chains, or other reciprocating, rotating, or moving parts of tools and equipment must be guarded if such parts are exposed to contact by an operator or other personnel. Machine guards, as appropriate, must be provided to protect the operator and others from the following: the point of operation, in-running nip points, rotating parts, and flying chips and sparks. Never remove or disable a guard from a tool. Portable circular saws are to be equipped with an upper guard that covers the entire blade of the saw. A retractable lower guard must cover the teeth of the saw except where it makes contact with the work material. The lower guard must automatically return to the covering position when the tool is withdrawn from the work material. Handheld portable power tools are to be equipped with a constant pressure switch or control that shuts off the power, thereby stopping the tool when pressure is released. Many older portable tools do not have this feature and should not be used. Tools that must be equipped with this safety switch are drills, tappers, fastener drives, horizontal, vertical, and angle grinders with wheels more than 2 inches in diameter, disc sanders, reciprocating saws, saber saws, and similar tools. These tools can be equipped with a lock-on control only if it allows the worker to also shut off the control in a single motion using the same finger or fingers. Some power tools can be equipped with a positive on-off control switch, a constant pressure switch, or a lock-on control. The constant pressure control switch is the preferred device. Tools that use this device include routers, planers, laminate trimmers, nibblers, shears, and scroll saws. There are many different types of hand and power tools. Manufacturers' operating rules and guidelines should be consulted for each type of tool used at your worksite. Read and understand the manual before using any tool. A hand tool is defined as any tool that is manually powered. Axes, wrenches, hammers, and screwdrivers are just some examples of hand tools. The greatest hazards posed by hand tools are a result of misuse and improper maintenance. Never use a screwdriver as a chisel or use a chisel as a screwdriver. In both cases, the tool can easily break and parts fly off, hitting the user or other employees. Never use a hammer or an axe if the handle is loose, splintered, or cracked. The head of the tool could easily fly off and hit someone or something. Never use a wrench that has weakened or sprung jaws from being used improperly. The wrench can slip off the bolt or nut and cause you to scrape your hand and knuckles, cause you to fall from an elevated worksite, or fly out of your hands and hit someone or something. Never use a chipping tool such as a chisel or wedge that has a mushroomed head. This is a condition where the head of the tool is flared out due to excessive use. Use can cause pieces of the head to break off and hit the user or others. Saw blades, knives, or other tools should be directed away from an aisle area and other people working in close proximity. Always keep knives, scissors, and other blades sharp. Dull blades are more dangerous than sharp blades. Cracked saw blades must be removed from use and discarded. Always wear appropriate PPE, such as safety goggles and gloves, to prevent injuries and accidents when using hand tools. Iron and steel hand tools can produce sparks that can be an ignition source around flammable substances. Use spark-resistant tools made from brass, plastic, aluminum, or other non-ferrous materials in explosive or hazardous atmospheres. Power tools are classified according to their power source: electric, pneumatic, liquid fuel, hydraulic, and powder actuated. Power tools should be fitted with guards and safety switches. Power tools can be extremely dangerous when used improperly. Never carry a tool by its cord or hose. Always disconnect the tool from the receptacle by pulling the plug and not on the cord or hose. Protect cords and hoses from heat, oil, and sharp edges. Disconnect tools when not in use, before servicing and cleaning, and when changing accessories. When practical, always secure work with clamps and/or a vise. Avoid accidental starting. Do not hold your finger on the power switch button while carrying an energized tool. Unplug the tool if you need to move it to a new location. Follow manufacturer's guidelines for lubricating and changing accessories. Wear proper apparel for the job. Remove loose jewelry, ties, and button-down long-sleeve shirts prior to using any power tool. Loose clothing, ties, and jewelry can become caught in moving parts. Remove all damaged power tools from use and tag "Do Not Use." Using electrical tools can be very dangerous, especially if you do not follow manufacturer's guidelines. Hazards include burns, shocks, and even death. The most common injuries from electric tools are burns and shocks. You should undergo specific training on electrical safety before using any electric tool. When using electric tools, always keep safety in mind. Always make sure tools are properly grounded. Use double insulated tools. Use ground fault circuit interrupters as required by OSHA, or have an assured grounding program. Tools should always be used within their design limitations. Misuse can cause injuries. Use gloves and appropriate safety footwear when using electric tools. Never use an electric tool in a damp or wet location. Keep work areas well lit. And finally, store tools properly in a dry location when not being used. Pneumatic tools, or tools that are driven by compressed air, are commonly used on construction sites and in general industry. These tools can be dangerous if used improperly and include chippers, drills, hammers, impact wrenches, and sanders. One of the main hazards is getting hit by one of the tool's attachments or by some kind of fastener the worker is using with the tool. A positive locking safety clip or retainer must be installed to prevent attachments from being ejected during operation. Double check to make sure the safety clip is working properly. Always check to ensure the tools are securely fastened to the air hose. Use wire clips where required. Precautions should be taken with the air hose to keep it from being damaged or to prevent someone from tripping over the hose. Never drag a hose across a walkway. When working with pneumatic tools, eye protection is required. Head and face protection is strongly recommended. And hearing protection is required if working with loud, noisy tools such as jackhammers. When using a jackhammer, heavy rubber grips will reduce fatigue and strains. Operators should also wear safety glasses, safety shoes, metatarsal guards, hearing protection, and a face shield. Pneumatic tools that shoot nails, rivets, staples, or similar fasteners and operate at pressures more than 100 pounds per square inch must be equipped with a safety device that prevents discharge unless the muzzle is pressed against the work surface. Never point compressed air guns or any tool at anyone. Use screens where practical to prevent nearby workers from being hit by flying fragments. Powder-actuated tools are essentially a loaded gun and operate like one. A load is placed in the barrel and then fired. These tools are extremely dangerous. Only specially trained employees are allowed to operate powder-actuated tools. If you are required to use powder-actuated tools, your company will provide specific training in this area. The fluid used in hydraulic power tools must be an approved fire-resistant fluid and must retain its operating characteristics at the most extreme temperatures to which it will be exposed. The manufacturer's recommended safe operating pressure for hoses, valves, pipes, filters, and other fittings must not be exceeded. If working with a hydraulic tool, remember they are under extreme pressure and can cause severe injury. Portable abrasive grinding, cutting, polishing, and wire buffing wheels create special safety problems because they may throw off flying fragments and sparks depending on the grinding surface. These tools can be either electric or pneumatic. Abrasive wheel tools must be equipped with guards that cover the spindle end, nut, and flange projections while maintaining proper alignment with the wheel. The guard cannot exceed the strength of the fastenings. Abrasive wheels must be inspected for damage and be sound or ring tested before being mounted. A stable or undamaged wheel will give a clear metallic tone or ring when tested. Abrasive wheels must be equipped with a safety guard to protect workers from the moving wheel surface and also from flying fragments in case of wheel breakage. Never stand in the plane of rotation of the wheel. Always wear eye protection and a face shield. Turn off power supply when not using the tool, and never clamp a handheld grinder in a vise. Manufacturer's load limits must be permanently marked in a prominent place on the jack and should never be exceeded. Jacks should have a stop indicator that stops it from jacking up beyond its safe limit. Always block a load after it has been jacked up. Never rely on a jack to support the load. Block the load and remove the jack before proceeding. When using a jack, make sure the base is on firm, level ground. Center the jack so that it is directly under the lift point and that the jack head bears against a level surface. Apply the lift force evenly. Always inspect jacks before use. Proper maintenance of jacks is necessary for safety. Lubricate jacks regularly and inspect at least once every 6 months. Inspect jacks that leave the worksite upon return and before each use. If a jack has been submitted to an abnormal load or shock, it should be inspected before use and immediately thereafter. Hydraulic jacks exposed to freezing temperatures must be filled with an adequate amount of proper antifreeze to keep from freezing. Check with the manufacturer for the proper type of antifreeze. Employees must be trained in the use and care of all hand and power tools used on the work site. Employees should be able to recognize the hazards associated with the different types of hand and power tools and know the necessary safety precautions. Employees must be trained in the PPE necessary for hand and power tools. Training requirements for each tool will be determined by your employer. If an accident occurs, report it to your supervisor as quickly as possible. Always seek medical attention immediately if an injury has occurred. Time is important when your health or that of your coworker is at stake. Call 911 in the case of life-threatening situations. Even if the injury is minor, report it and let trained medical professionals determine the proper care. Your company will provide detailed instructions on who to call and where to report accidents and injuries. This video has been a brief introduction to some of the issues that may arise from the use of hand and power tools. Your employer, along with the manufacturer's instructions or guide, is one of the best places to learn about the different tools and their uses. Never use a tool unless you know how to use it properly. And finally, by working safely with all tools, you can assure that you will go home to your family in the same condition you arrived at work.